talked to you guys recently about this. This is a really good tool to just sort of help people understand what's the sentiment in the market. Is the sentiment bullish for sort of economic growth prospects, or is the sentiment bearish? In essence, this is a just a simple spread relationship between the price of gold and the price of silver. And who buys what? Theoretically, there's more silver used in industry than there is gold. There's always going to be the part of the market that buys gold and silver, to bury it in the background, end of the world, fiat currencies are worthless. There's always going to be that part of the market regardless. But the question here is, can industry influence price at all? If you had just that regular demand, Peter Schiffs of the world, buy your gold, right? And gold's a great investment. That's going to be there anyway. But then all of a sudden, industry actually uses some of these metals when they are building more products and the economy's booming. Silver is used in a lot of things, a lot of stuff. In fact, actually, I remember, I hate to keep picking on you, Megan, sorry. But did you ever shop at Lululemon? I imagine there's probably not too many men on the site that shop at Lululemon other than around Christmas time. Okay. So Lululemon's not her thing. But I did find it interesting, like five or 6 years ago, Lululemon announced that they were embedding silver thread into their yoga outfits and workout outfits, because silver actually is a natural deodorant. And a lot of women they want to always smell fresh and pretty and all that. They don't want to smell stinky, especially when they're working out. So that's a good example of, you don't put gold thread into clothing, but there are places in our industries where you would actually put in silver thread into clothing to help with things like deodorant. So also too, silver was a major component in the photograph industry, and I'm sure there's probably still some like old schoolers that say, hey, you know what, the old way, that's the best way to do it. Screw these digital photos, whatever. Point here is that silver is used in industry. So understanding that there will always be the Peter Schiffs in the world. But what we want to ask is, what's the relative demand in the marketplace? Do we see that industrial sort of part of the demand actually picking up? Is it growing? Is it backing off? And this relationship here is a fantastic way to see that. And, through the whole, hell, you could make the argument that this has been going on a long time. So here is the 2008 financial crisis. So you might argue that here's 1990. I think you could make the argument, we had the dot-com boom. Now, it was tech stocks, but then, George Bush Jr. and all those guys, they all flipped the whole society into war mode. And I think you could make the argument that generally speaking, there was a pretty good sort of long-term trend that the economy was doing pretty well. Baby boomers, peak earnings years, all that, blah, blah, blah. Then we had the financial crisis. I suppose you could also flip this around and measure this versus M2, and you might see slight and probably not lower lows here. But generally speaking, let's call this economic growth. Econ doing good. Trending higher. Yes, we had a check in between. This was the dot-com blow up. And then, of course, Mr. Bush generated his war in the Middle East and was able to get the oil industry rocking and rolling. And, of course, I remember when Junior Bush was in power, They actually unwound a lot of the regulation that was put in place after the Great Depression to try and keep the financial services out of the housing industry. He unwound a lot of that regulation. So, and the message at that point was every single American citizen should be a home owner. Well, you don't have a job? It doesn't matter. Every single U.S. citizen should be a home owner. You don't really have that good of a credit history, and you actually have a storied past of defaulting and running away from your debt obligations. So what? In fact, we'll even create a government agency, but they didn't create it, they just leveraged it. But we'll find government agencies to guarantee your loan, even though anybody in their right mind, you got no business lending this person money. And you remember through that period, Cadillac Escalade, everybody had to have their Escalades. And unfortunately, that ended in absolute disaster. Now, interesting enough, right, sort of through the short-term pain, you can see this ratio started to go up again after the financial, disaster of that terrible lending policy. But they sort of got their act together, and the bureaucrats came in and they sort of said, okay, we'll move all this money over here to this fake thing, but don't pay attention to it. It's just over there, and we'll print a whole bunch of new money to offset that. Now, of course, you can't. You all know physics 101. So matter can neither be created nor destroyed. So really, it was all just a fugazi. And at some point, the market said, hey, wait a minute. The economy is not coming back. And literally 2011, right through, hey, isn't that interesting? There is our crisis. Basically, this was a major vote in the marketplace. We have no confidence in the economy. Economy is shrinking. We're going to turtle. Then we had our crisis. And then all of a sudden you heard, Chair Powell, shouldn't we debate mortgaging our kids' future to save the economy in the short term? Shut up. Right, so they basically engineered a big bailout, for lack of a better word. Not going to call it that. We're going to call it COVID, the Relief Act, or whatever the hell the name was. But to all intents and purposes, it was a bailout. Whole bunch of free new money and all that bullshit. Of course, we know matter can neither be created nor destroyed. But all the free money jacked the economy back up. Rock and roll. I think you could make the argument that we all should have at this point right in here, and actually ironically enough, was there some guy going around on the interneting talking about money that's sort of made from dogs right around here? And, our newest site member for Soul, you got... Now, toll guy, you have no choice. You better be in here 1 year from now. I don't want to. If you're not, then it means that you're just full of shit. So are you full of shit, sir? So, sadly, there were a bunch of the public that came in right when things were most optimistic and loaded up on things like dog money. Total waste of time, if you ask me on that. And still to this day, he won't acknowledge the fact that he basically he conned everybody to come in and buy his asset at 10 times what it's trading at now, or 5 times what it's trading at now. Hey, there's a good decision. I want Elon as my financial advisor. Not! Sorry to screw you all over. Sorry about that. But we should have looked at this. I hate to say it. And the problem is that when I do say this stuff, everybody goes, oh, shut up, Brian. You're raining on our parade. But we should have looked at this and went, uh-oh, there's trouble coming. So then we rally up into sort of previous resistance levels, and then we went and carved out what looks to me like a very well-defined inverted head and shoulders. And look what's happening. So regardless of your opinion, put your opinions away. What is this image telling you? Is this image telling you that industry is ramping up, or is this image telling you industry is backing off?